Righto, everybody, smile. We're we're being recorded. I
Good
guess.
on camera.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly
Better than
right.
being registered.
So we have one newbie on here today. We've seen Suzanne before. We've seen me, Wayno before. Ray's been on here many times. He's the frustrated well what are you?
Host.
Historian.
The frustrated historian. That's right.
Yes.
Anita's been on here before. She was on the gardening show, I think, and you should see those two bloody trees that we planted higher than the fence now. I can't believe it, all because of a bit of copper. Sarah, you've been on here many times, the
Yeah.
co-host and one of the conspirators that put this thing together. And Fiona, you're new on here, so do you mind just taking a couple of minutes and come on, Fiona, you'll be fine. Just tell us who you are and what you do. I mean, you could lie and we wouldn't know. Just tell us where you're from, and then we'll all feel better. You've got
I'm
the
Fiona Marie. I am on Geraldton, Western Australis. As far as TASA goes, I am the International Business Pillar Coordinator. I also volunteer to chair the Land and Public Assets Working Group, and I also chair the subcommittee of that working group, which is looking into purchasing land insofar as the actual process of purchasing land. Because on our Land and Public Assets Working Group, we also have another subcommittee, which is chaired by Andy on Cairns, who is I think he's an ex-surveyor, but he's got surveying abilities and experience, and he's looking into the meets and bounds process side of things for the purchasing of land. And that's it, unless you want to know about personal life, which is very dull because I don't have any time.
I can understand why you wouldn't have any time. You've dobbed yourself in for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
For anybody who's listening, you would have heard us talk about TASA before, and Fiona just referenced TASA, and that is Terra Australis States Assemblies. That's the common denominator with all of us here. We're all a member of TASA, happily, you know, self-governing our way through life, if you like. But yeah, so well, we got some stuff to cover this afternoon. We'll just quickly go to GFG, just quickly. Yeah, okay. I don't know why I'm asking permission. It's my Zoom. We're going to go to GFG, okay?
Okay.
Heard earlier on this week from Judge Anna that people located in 17 of the nation states in Africa are now using their GFG. What's the name of the card? Somebody help me. Prosperity card. Their GFG prosperity card to buy their groceries. So Anna said she didn't know much about it. She knew it was happening. She couldn't give us any more news than that. But if that's the case, and I'm sure it is, then it looks like process has started. Now, I don't know when they're going to get around to me, but I guess soon. But anyway, for all you doubters out there, sounds like the money's rolling in Africa. So who knows how long it'll take to get here, and really, who cares? Life's fun anyway. So I just thought I'd share that with you. So Fiona, have you got lots to talk about? It's a fairly in-depth subject, isn't it?
Well, Sarah contacted me because on that webinar on Monday night for Anna, somebody asked the question about purchasing property, and Anna said, absolutely not.
Yes.
You can't do it. and she gave some reasons. I didn't watch all of it, and I believe there was another segment where where she touched on some other things. But Sarah and Sarah was the reason that we started purchasing property part of the land and public assets. We were actually looking into allodial title as to whether or not that would be a suitable system for us to use once we have control of the land recording office and that sort of thing. But because the GFG was looming and purchasing property is so high on many people's list of things to do when it drops, we wanted to look into that and see if we could find a process, because until everything's under our control, or we're sort of telling GovCo what to do, we have to, if we want to purchase land, you have to do it inside their system. There's no way around that, because you could do a good faith agreement. If I wanted to buy land off you, I could do a good faith agreement and I could give you some gold or silver or whatever, and we could come to agreement, but it would still be in their system as belonging to you and not me. So that could cause, especially if, I mean, the likelihood of two TASA people buying and selling is highly unlikely. So that could cause issues for the vendor because the council's on their back and all that other sort of thing. You've got to protect people. So you would somehow have to purchase the property inside of their system, and then you can reconvey the property, which is the physical land, but you've still got the title that you've got to deal with. So what we're looking into at the moment that looks quite promising is a private unregistered trust could be the way to deal with the title until we don't have to deal with it anymore. But from what Anna was saying, the things that Sarah and I were chatting about that we hadn't thought of and that we think that she may be alluding to is things like, because over there, when what year was it, 2008, Sarah?
2008, when
the big crash, there was so much more damage done to people over there insofar as properties were stolen by banks, repossessed, all that sort of thing. So if you were to buy a property that had a unsavory history, you could be damaging somebody if if they want their property back, you've then bought something that's not yours. There's all sorts of little pitfalls and things that could be hidden that we would need to do some research into. So instead of just finding a property that looks really good, there's probably some other deep diving research you could be doing in the meantime to check on the history, because I did a little bit of research in between when I spoke to Sarah and now. On Australia, there's Terra Australis, there's no centralised public database that has information of. I asked in the search about repossessed properties, for example, and there's no database that's a central database where you can key in your property and see, okay, it was repossessed here. But there is things that would probably be listed on the title that would give you clues. If the property, the owner or whatever it's called on the property is the bank, that would indicate that the bank took over ownership of the property. Or there could be sometimes caveats or notices and stuff that would be listed on the title that might give you some of that information. So you could do things like that, like do some research on that, but it would take a bit of work. Sarah mentioned cadastral maps. I don't even know what they are, so she can tell you about those. I was going to look it up, but I didn't have time.
I was actually relying on you to know the answer to that, Fiona. This
No, I don't know what they are. I think I might have actually looked into cadastral maps because I was looking for unallocated Crown land to see where that was, because you're allowed to camp on that indefinitely if you've got a miner's right. So I looked into that briefly, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole for another day.
There's a bit of that just south of here, actually.
There's a lot of it. It's all along the coast down over here. Like you could set up a lovely little spot. Anyway, one of the other things that Sarah and I sort of discussed is when I look at properties, because I speak regularly to Andy in meets and bounds, doing a meets and bounds survey is quite a task. So you don't want to purchase a property that has a boundary that looks like a heart monitor. You want a square or a rectangle or something close to that because your meets and bounds survey is going to be a bit difficult otherwise. But other than that, that's sort of the discussion that we wanted to have today of people's ideas of things that we could do. Because I mean, I'm not 100% sure that's the only reason Anna made that statement, but I think it's probably a large part of it. And she also was talking about when you buy a property in their system, you're buying a title, which is a piece of paper with a description of land.
Yeah, their own
That's
description that
that they've made up.
If
So
I can just butt in there,
absolutely.
I actually heard what Anna said about this,
Oh,
and
good.
she said when this is all getting like sorted out, when they get full control, they're going to go back at least 10 years. So if 9.5 years ago your property was taken over by the bank and on sold, when they investigate all that, they may well come back to you and say, well, it's actually yours. Would you like it back? And so she's saying that there's going to be a lot of confusion, and it's going to take a while to settle down. But Sarah, what you said and what you're saying, Fiona, is that problem won't be as bad in this country, and I think you're correct. It'll still be there,
Absolutely.
and that information, I reckon. I've had a bit to do with real estate agents, and I did own some rental properties and that for a while. I reckon they will know. They will know. They've got a program which I subscribed to for a while, and I can't remember the name of it. They can go back and check out the history of that property. Now, I'm not saying that is for sure, but I am a little bit hopeful that they'd be able to just check it out and say, oh yeah, the bank had their fingers in.
You could definitely ask the question to your agent.
You definitely can.
Yeah,
you
could.
definitely
And then you put the
can.
onus on them. Has it ever been repossessed? But then, like one of the properties I was looking at the other day, it's the person or whoever it is that owns it at the moment is the second owner since the original grant. So you don't have a lot to look back on then. If a
No.
property has changed hands many times, then you've got more possible pitfalls. But yeah, it's very interesting.
Sue?
And it might differ from state to state too, depending on what's on the title. But the other thing was because I've worked in real estate as I was a residential property manager for 15 years, and I also worked in conveyancing many, many moons ago, back when you had manual typewriters. It was so long ago.
Oh my God.
Because one of the things that we were tossing around was whether or not you could pop in a note on the purchase agreement or something that worded so that it didn't raise suspicion or alarm. One of the things when Darren was on one of our meetings, he said that you could probably have it if you started the statement immediately after settlement, such and such is going to happen. It wouldn't, the vendor wouldn't care because that's after it's off their hands. But we could maybe nut out a little something that we could put into the purchase agreement so that we'll get it into their paperwork and into their system without raising too many alarms that we could, because they do that to us all the time, like all the time.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we could play their games with them and
You've
somehow.
still got to get that past the conveyancer or the lawyer, and they'd just have a tick box, wouldn't they? Done this, done this, done this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it wasn't, well, because the other thing, when we find out what the process, the lady that's got her, the one, Sarah,
Gail.
Yeah,
Sue
Gail.
can talk to that.
Yeah, because I mean, there may be something that we can, because she had to fight tooth and nail to get that to happen. There might be a way to shortcut that process by putting
Yeah.
something on the. I don't know. I don't know, but I just think it's definitely worth looking into. We can
Well,
play them at their own game.
I think yes, I'll let Sue talk because she can talk to the ability to find historical data on a home, and she can certainly talk to a bit more about the title stuff, which Gail's working on at the moment. So, Sue, do you want to?
Yep, you can definitely do the historical title search all the way back to the original Crown grant that would have been allocated. It might be slightly different in each state, but there's definitely an ability to do that. And a friend of mine started a website because he was helping people get their paper titles because everyone was panicking that if they didn't have a piece of paper of the certificate of title, that they would have less ownership rights by some mechanism. Now, he says that's not the case. There are many ways to prove your ownership of property, even if you don't have a paper certificate of title in their system. And one of them is the contract of sale. And you can actually go into, well, it's PEXA here in Victoria. I think each state's got a different mob running it. But you can go into all of the documents that made up the contract of sale, and there is a way to get certified copies of each one of those documents. And the contract makes the law. The certificate of title is really just, it's a memorandum of an event that occurred. It's literally a certificate saying this process of property transfer from one to another has occurred, and you can get that verified. I mean, there's all sorts of things that prove you own the property, or because it'll be on the rates notice for a start, so again, like you said, Fiona, if we had a recording system and one state national sold to another state national and it didn't change in their system, the original owner is going to be still the one having liability sent to them. So it's not going to change. So we have to deal with that system too, because to protect one another, because you don't want a situation where one state national actually could go back in and say, oh, I actually still own this property, you better get out. I mean, you would hope that we wouldn't devolve that far in our new world where everybody's does no harm, but you don't want to leave that possibility there either, do you? So the website that anyone can go to look at that process is landtitlehelp. Is it .com or is it .vic? Actually, I might have to look it up, and I'll look it up and I'll put it in the chat when I'm not speaking. Yes, and then we have a friend, another lady friend who's thinks she's figured out how to actually undo all the processes they've done since the original Crown grants so that we can get the highest claim on the land in their legal system and lawfully. So actually, Sarah and I are meeting with her tomorrow, and we hope to have a bit more information, but I believe they'll probably put that out into the public later this year for everybody to know. So it's not a TASA thing, but it'll be out there. But again, that'll still be within their system. It hopefully will just give us the highest claim on the land through the process that she's devised.
Okay. See, I know that in New South Wales, I've got actual title for some land that I still own in New South Wales, but they don't suit them, I suppose, when you think about it, but they don't recognise those titles anymore. They changed it all to digital. So they only recognise the digital version now, which is kind of puts it all back in their in their hands, really. But sometimes I think this is a stupid game we've been playing.
Well, it is, because no one's ever had, like, name one person in the whole country that's ever lost property because their title's digital or a blue title and not an original parchment. Like, you've got to be so careful that some of this stuff isn't just a fear campaign. You know, like, we need to be able to, like Anna says, be discerning and, you know, have your Shinola sensors on. And a lot of this, we shouldn't buy into anything that drives fear. Like, we should look at it practically and go, well, if this is what they want to do, how can we counter that? But there's no need to go into a complete panic that you're going to lose something. I just don't think it works like that. So I yield on that note anyway.
Right.
Ray, the frustrated historian, you've got your hand up there, mate. You better unmute. You better unmute.
Yeah, I wanted to say a couple of things. I did my homework on Cadastral, or Cadastral, whichever way you want to pronounce it. It's a broader legal land survey. It's to create, define, record, and manage land ownership parcels within a jurisdiction. It's part of a cadaster, which is the official government system of land ownership, titles, parcel maps, and property boundaries. Now, where it's different, the cadastral survey to a boundary survey, is that the cadastral maps are graphical and highly detailed records. It displays the exact dimensions, shapes, and locations of individual land parcels relative to one another. So while they sound similar, they serve different functions. The cadastral survey establishes or legally redefines property boundaries, and it's officially registered with the state or local title offices. Boundary surveys are just for identifying existing lines without official title re-registration, like for finding the exact line to build a fence. So I'm going to share my screen because it contains a summary here. This might make it easier to grasp. Is that coming up there?
Not
It
yet.
will in a sec. Just so everyone knows, our word of the day was cadastral, so that's why people have done research on it.
Can we see that?
Yes.
All
Ray,
right,
if you
so-
go down to the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little slidey thing down there. You can make that bit of paper a bit bigger.
Yeah, I was planning to, if everyone can see that. Can you see it now?
Yep.
All right, let's look at the difference. With the scope, the cadastral is an entire land parcel system. The boundary is just one property boundary. When you're looking at the purpose of the cadastral survey, it's land administration and legal parcel creation. The boundary survey is just to locate existing property lines. Now, the cadastral survey is used for subdivisions, titles, land registration, whereas the boundary survey is used when you want to build a fence or a property dispute. The aspects of the cadastral survey include roads, easements, parcel creation, and titles. The boundary surveys for the boundary location only. The government registration, let's look at that issue. For a cadastral survey, it's usually yes, whereas a boundary survey is sometimes no.
That's
The
usually
complexity,
yes and sometimes no. That's pretty.
Isn't it the
yeah,
same?
well, that's, yeah, there you go. There you go. That's GovCo for you. Complexity, you can see that the boundary survey is more focused, whereas the cadastral's broader. The output, the cadastral survey is put in deposited plans and cadastral records, whereas the boundary survey is just for boundary report and marking. Let's summarize. The boundary survey, you ask yourself, where is my boundary? For a cadastral survey, you ask yourself, how is land ownership legally structured and recorded? That's the basic difference. Before I go to my next point that I wanted to mention, I yield. Does anyone have any questions?
I just It's not a question. I just want to observe that the cadastral maps that I've looked at for my area and for up in Darwin are usually, you'll find they're quite historical documents, and they'll go back to when we had counties before we had like the mega shires that we've got now. And even prior to the small shires, they go back to counties. So the county that I live in, for example, is different, I think, to the county that Sue lives in, even though we're like 5 minutes away from each other, just because the boundary between those two counties, back when it was first drawn up, and we're talking about, I can't remember when, but it was back when most of this was farmland. And you'll find that, so I know I did the one on Darwin for a friend up there, and I was looking at the cadastral map. And this is the reason we're talking about this is if you have property already that you want to reconvey, you are going to need in your meets and bounds, if your surveyor does not do meets and bounds, it's helpful to have this information in your meets and bounds. So you can say on cadastral map, blah, 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 this was identified as lot 491 in this allotment or this whatever. Okay, so you can designate it right back to when it was actually on that map, because as Anna says, a lot of the maps, a lot of the lines on the page now are just arbitrary lines that they've made up out of nowhere. So this, it's like giving provenance to the fact that this is the land. You're not mistaking it for other land. Okay. Then obviously you do your meets and bounds, which gives the GPS coordinates and the corners and stuff like that. And that's where Fiona is quite right. If you're looking at a property and it's got 19 corners, do you really want to do a meets and bounds on that? Unless if a surveyor can do it, great. But in Victoria or on Victoria, surveyors won't do meets and bounds. So that's a thing to go into. But that's your cadastral maps are usually going to be historical documents. Okay. It's not going to tell you whether the property you want has been foreclosed on, but it will give you, if you're looking to purchase a property, it's not a bad idea to go back to that cadastral map, because if it has been in an outer rural area or farmland or something like that, you're probably going to find that not a lot has changed. So you're not going to have to deal with any of that foreclosure, because it will be Crown land, a farmer bought it, he died, someone else bought it, subdivided it into a smaller farm, and then they passed it to the next person, or the next person paid for it, and you're buying it. So there's no issue of provenance. And that's what we're really trying to establish with these things, is this issue of provenance. When you get into foreclosures and banking, that's when it starts to get really murky. So that's why it's good to pull a section. If you're looking at a property, pull a section 32 on it. Anyone can get the section 32. If a property's for sale, you can get the section 32, and that should give you a basis to start from. And then, as Sue said, it's land. Hang on, let me have a look in the chat again. It is landtitlehelp.com, landtitlehelp.com, and that should help you work things out as far as your titles are concerned. Now I'll shut up and let Ray continue on.
While Fiona was speaking earlier, it twigged on me something that I came across back in 2012, and we may need to use this as an extra layer of insurance, because GovCo are obviously doing all of this to try and, pull a Swifty on us, and I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. If we take out a loan or buy a property, whatever, and we do it with trusts and everything, okay, fine. If it's unencumbered, we've got an extra layer of protection. But what I'm fancying now more than ever is to do a treaty with the originals, the tribe that the land is on. Now, I know for sure it has been done, and I've spoken to people when I was living in Melbourne and met such people, and the councils and the police tend to avoid it like the plague, because they don't want to know. So they'll rock up, they'll try and get you back in their jurisdiction, then they'll leave and they won't return. So I'm thinking one has to find the correct tribe, because I know I was warned when I had meetings with the original elders. It used to be in Collingwood. And I remember a cop saw me coming out of the building, and then decided to stop me and look for any reason to slap a $700 fine on my automobile. So that's when I knew I was onto something. Because cops stake out that place. So that's when I knew I'm on the right track. So one has to be careful who these original tribes are. You'll never see them on TV. There are tricks there where if they're working for the crown, you avoid them and drop them like a hot potato. You've got to go to the ones that are not crown affiliated, none of this native title or whatever else they want to call it. And then they'll get you to on an animal skin or something with real blood and all of that. You do like a treaty, you get adopted into their tribe. You come under their protectorate because they were the originals before the Torrens titling system, right? They're the originals. You get adopted into the tribe. Your property is then safe on the oath that you do no harm to people in their property, which we all live by anyway under TASA. So we may need that as extra insurance in case they ignore our VC on the paperwork. They say, no, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, no, your law is wrong. They can make up the rules as you go along. So to protect ourselves, I feel we should go down that path, and I'm happy to go and start searching for who these originals are and perhaps get them to come on a webinar and chat with us. I yield.
Interesting. You were talking there before, Sarah, about if it's got more than 4 corners, don't buy it. I've got 700 acres of bush in New South Wales, and it's got about 24 corners on it. But
I'd suggest you get a reconveyor, like a surveyor who does meets and bounds to do that one, mate.
I've chased it up a bit, but I might, Fiona, I might get you to put me in touch with Andy, and I'll just go straight to somebody who's on our side of the fence and get some meaningful advice. I think it was I don't think they're cadastral maps. I think they were pre that, like where they put a measurement from the rock in the corner to the fig tree. I forget what it's called, some sort of a survey.
Chain. It's 16. They work in chains and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it'll even have previous owners' names on the that owned that block before. So I've got there's 3 separate lots in this 700 acres, and I've got those actual surveys for that. So I might have a talk to Andy about that. He may be able to, working off that, he might not even need to go to the property. He might be able to do it off Google Maps. Who knows? But
you might be able to do it yourself, Wayne, in New South Wales version of PEXA. You do a historical property search, and it gives you the original historical, and they're written like meets and bounds, give you the angles, and where you start from. So I found it very helpful because we've got a property, 70 acres, and it's probably got more than 20 boundaries.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. So, and we've got the old documents because the property has only ever been owned by, the original one that it was granted to as the original grant, and then one owner before us. So
that might be the same sort of survey as I've already got.
Yeah, it might be. Go and have a read. They're very hard to read because they were all written longhand too.
Yeah. Maybe I'll be right, but I would like to talk to Andy. So,
well, that's what Andy and his subgroup are doing. Is they are going to document the exact process of how to do it, so that the common man or woman on the land with no experience, it'll be like a step by step. Because
I remember I sent my meets and bounds sample to Andy about a year ago because I got mine done in rods, chains, and links, my meets and bounds. I knew someone who could do it and could work out the angles.
Well, that's the research they're stuck on at the moment, is that they've been researching the measurements, the units of measurement, to see which would be the best. And they're all copyrighted and go back to the Crown and link back into everything. So I
Yeah.
told them I had a dream that we had created our own. It was called the Tassarian, and each Tassarian was 1.5 meters. And so we just said raise south boundary as 11.5 Tassarians long. Because when it comes to measurements, if you've got something in inches, you just convert it to centimeters if that's what you want to use. So I don't know, it's my dreams.
Did you take notes for that dream so that you would remember?
I told Andy, yeah. It was very strange because I don't usually remember my dreams either, and that was clear as a bell. This Tassarian measurement was because I'm 1.5 meters short, so I'm 1 Tassarian tall. That's me done.
A Tassarian.
I saw this thing the other day, and it's changing the subject entirely. Apparently, your wingspan, so from fingertip to fingertip, if you measure that, that's how tall you are.
Right.
And then your head. Is that true?
No idea.
I'll
I've
check
heard
it
that
out
one
later.
before.
I'm not going to do it now.
I've heard that one before.
Yeah, I thought that was really, and I saw this girl do it. She was like, it was some home reno thing, and she was measuring, and she went, "Oh my God, that's exactly my height." And I thought, wow, so maybe I should check that out. So there you go.
Well, there you go. You heard it first here.
So
Okay.
thank you for coming on today, Fiona. We'll talk about other stuff, but mostly just to sum up, the reason I wanted to get Fiona on here is because I know a lot of people are going to listen to what Anna said about don't buy a house. And whilst I understand her reasons for saying that, and Sue has got a little bit of background as well, I get where Anna's coming from, but at the same time, if you're doing it tough and you desperately need to get into accommodation of your own, don't not buy a house either. And we're very lucky on this country that we don't have the same issues that they have in America, because back in 2008, for those of you that remember, we all got $900 and told to go and buy a TV, whereas the rest of the world was imploding. So the foreclosure situation, which is now giving us many, many, many home flipping shows on Nine Life, didn't really hit as hard here. Having said that, it doesn't hurt to do your due diligence. Go and have a look. If you've got your eye on property, go and have a look at it. Like I said, doesn't cost you anything to get the Section 32, doesn't cost you anything to go and have a look around the titles websites in your state, and just see what you can dig up on the property. And find out, when it's been on the market, how much it's sold for, all that kind of stuff, because it will give you a pretty good idea of what you're walking into. And just, exercise a bit of common sense. And unless you're a gun at, and you really like meats and bounds and stuff really is your cup of tea, maybe, as Fiona said, look for a rectangle.
Yeah.
And with that,
where do you get the Section 32 from?
real estate. If a property is for sale, you just ask the real estate agent for a Section 32, because it'll give you all easements, all overlays. And see, this is the other thing to be aware of. Technically, yes, when you buy property, technically, once it's reconveyed, you don't really have to listen to the council regs about building and renovating. But whilst we know that councils are primarily there to be a pain in our collective butts, there are some things that are there for very good reason. So in some places, there are, say, for example, bushfire overlays. You might want to have a look at those bushfire overlays. There might be flood overlays. There'll be easements that you need to check for. So if you're planning to, if you've never bought property, I'm just letting you know, these are all the things you have to look for. There's easements, which is where they have to get onto the property to access like water pipes and power lines and stuff like that. There are things like Aboriginal, Indigenous overlay stuff, cultural overlays. So you might not want to buy a property if it's got a cultural overlay on it, because they might say, no, you can't have a vegetable garden. Just saying.
Business.
So there's all sorts of reasons why that Section 32 is a really good idea to get on a property, because it will give you a huge amount of information that would be very valuable to. Can you stop banging the table? Sorry, guys. That it would be really helpful for you to know before you kind of go in and start to actually seriously make offers. And with that, I yield.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for their input. We should probably talk about the fact that all.
Ray wants to ask a question.
Ray, you've got your hand up. Please
Yeah,
speak.
I was just gonna say, if I can summarize all of that and you guys tell me what you
Yep.
think. What I gathered from everyone's input was very valuable. What went through my mind is two things. One, something may not happen and we shouldn't let fear overtake us. Like Sue was saying, that's true. So where we can get something out of their jurisdiction, whether it's ourselves and our properties, our belongings, where we can, where there is an avenue, like coming up with our own documents, coming up with reconveying, coming up with a process like the land recording office, treating with the originals of the land. Wherever we can find a way, we find a way. Where we can't, not to let the fear take over for something that might not eventuate. I yield.
Yes, you're exactly right, Ray. I refuse to live in fear. It doesn't get you anywhere. And fear is always what might happen, or you're frightened of what happened in the past. So I think we should live in the now, put all the fear aside, enjoy life, just sort of lazy along, I reckon. So
And-
good advice. Good
And
advice.
just quickly, Fiona's just done a quick search, which is I should have done. A Section 32 is a Victorian thing. New South Wales, they've got a Schedule 1 prescribed documents. South Australia is a Form 1 disclosure statement. WA is a seller's disclosure statement. The ACT, required documentation for the sale of residential property or land. I don't know why you'd buy anything in the ACT because you never get the land anyway. It's only a lease on the land, so you don't get to buy anything. Queensland, Tassie and Northern Territory, no formal vendor statement is required, though certain disclosures may still apply. So you might have to do a bit more work there, but if the real estate knows their stuff, they really should be able to tell you a lot of that info anyway. I yield.
If you ask them outright, then it's on the record. And if there's, you make them they have to take some responsibility for it then. Because there's lots of things. I know real estate agents are much like lawyers. There's things they won't tell you unless you ask exactly outright for it. So ask. I yield.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So you've got to know what question to ask. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk about the Tuesday night international, what's it called? National General Assembly. That call.
Yep.
That call, which up until now, or up until last Monday night, has been more or less, and this is a TASA thing. If you just, if you're watching this wondering what the heck I'm talking about, it's a TASA meeting. And up until recently, it was more or less by invitation. You actually had to have a role in TASA. You had to be a coordinator, or you had to be on a committee, or the head of a committee, or the head of a work group, or whatever. You had to be one of those things to get on there. It's now been opened up to it's only all reconveyed state nationals. Is that correct, Sarah? That's right, isn't it? So if you're a state national and you're reconveyed, I suggest that you get on to your coordinator or one of your coordinators and you will have to be vetted. That's pretty simple. We just your coordinator would organise probably to send your information off to Christina. Would that be right, Sarah? Christina, I think.
Well, it's Christina or Carol, although Carol's busy. But I think the other thing too is that if your coordinator wants to give you the link, then theoretically that would be
you
Betty,
probably,
I would think, rather than bombard Christina with all of the details. But essentially, that meeting's been opened up. It would be great to see a lot of people on there because it is your National General Assembly, and it's where we find things out.
It's a great place to learn. It's a great place to learn what we're all about. It's a great place to learn what to do, and it's not a bad place some nights to learn what you shouldn't do. I have seen it like that. If you're a reconveyed state national, I would suggest that Sarah's probably right that if your coordinator gave you the link, you would be right to go on there, but probably get your coordinator to advise Christina at the same time, because if we get to a point where we're going to vote on something, if you're not reconveyed, you can't vote, and if you're not reconveyed, you shouldn't be there. So we just got to have some sort of a system that'll sort itself out without being real official and, inventing paperwork to send off. Just find out how to let Christina know. And then
I'd just like to add that ultimately, any General Assembly, at the end of the day, when we're fully up and running and whatever, any General Assembly is open to anyone. Okay, you don't have to be reconveyed. So if you and I will keep doing this until the day I die, I will bring the analogy back to a town hall. So if you're having a meeting in a town hall, any person can rock up to that town hall. Now, theoretically, at the town hall meeting, you will have a marshal at arms. We'll have them on the call. And for unruly behaviour, for, just bad behaviour, anything like that, the marshal at arms is there to eject troublemakers and to smack people around, verbally a little bit to say, hey, mind your manners or whatever. And you would, at that town hall, people would know who was reconveyed or not, because obviously you'd go through the LRO to cast your votes and stuff like that. Now, we're not quite technologically advanced enough to be able to do that quite yet, which is why we are restricting the General Assembly at this stage to reconveyed state nationals, so that we don't have to worry about that voting issue. Ultimately, it will be open to all. But for now, I would really encourage everyone to get onto that call, because it is where you find out what's going on. It's where you get to ask questions. It's where you get to say to the different committees, what's going on with this, or can you have a look at that for us, or whatever. That's where you make your voice heard, and that's where the will of the people, that's you, gets expressed. So I would really encourage everyone to you don't have to be on it every single week, but really get familiar with it, start to know how it plays out, how it works, and get to know the players. So, yeah, and where to meet other people and find out where people are from and what's going on in the rest of TASA. I yield.
Thanks, Sarah. And it's a good place to be. Like, TASA's very much in the formative stage, if you like. There's a lot going on. And there's a lot of help required as well. I mean, you might come on there, like, look at all of us. We've all got a role. And we dobbed ourselves in for the role. And I mean, you might want to do the same thing. When you get on there and you get interested in something, you might want to go and help Fiona on her committee or whatever. But I'm sure you need people. But it's not just about us getting help either. If you want to take an interest in, running your country, if you want to take an interest in what is actually happening in this country, and if you want to, in fact, influence what might happen in this country, well, you just need to come along there, slowly, steadily get a feel for it, and yeah, who knows what could happen? But it's the best place to be to get an education, be it good or bad, but just depends what night you show up. Yeah, highly recommend it. I do. What about the Monday night call? Will we go straight on to the Monday night call?
Yeah, why not? So,
it's also a good place to be, eh?
well, I like the Monday night call. So the difference between the two is that Tuesday's formal. It's got an agenda. You hear from like people like Fiona, the pillar coordinators about what's going on in those pillars. There's a treasurer report every couple of weeks. You get to, find out what's going on at the treasury level. But it is recorded. It is agendaed. There are things that, get moved and whatever. So it's a motion. Monday night's call is a lot more informal. Okay, so again, it's reconveyed nationals, simply because sometimes we talk about things that are very, very TASA specific, and we answer a lot of questions on the Monday night call, and we throw ideas around, and it's really where people can kind of tease things out. There's not always the time to do that on the Tuesday night call because it's fairly structured. But the Monday night call is a great place to just toss ideas around and talk to other people and kind of figure out what's going on. If you're not sure about something, you can ask it on the Monday night call, and there'll usually be a couple of people on there who can help demystify things. If there's a lot of people that request information about something, so a couple of weeks back, we did a special recorded one where Mumpreneur and Sue gave some amazing information about jurisdictions and how jurisdictions work with each other and the basis of jurisdictions and assemblies and stuff like that. So, we can certainly, and that was done at request. Everyone said we want to know more about this. Can we run a big training session, which we did. So the Monday night call is it's a great one to get onto. It's very relaxed. It's very informal. Still polite and all the rest of it, but it's a lot of fun,
Yep.
and it's usually short. We try really hard to keep it to the hour. So it's not a long thing. But yeah, if you can jump onto that one, by all means, anyone's welcome. So yeah.
Yep, it's the place if you got, maybe you're not confident to stand up and ask your question in a meeting atmosphere, but it's more casual. It's probably not quite as casual as here, but it's pretty casual, let me tell you.
Yeah.
The only dumb question is the one that you didn't ask. So if you want to know something,
Yeah.
turn up there and
to get the link for that, just email Alan or talk to your coordinator and see if they can give you Alan's email, and email Alan and he'll send you a link for it. So there's no crunch with that.
I have to work out whether I put links in the description under this. I don't know whether I can or should or shouldn't. So we've had this wish. I dreaded it at the start because I know that Sarah loves to talk about off-world stuff, UFOs. Shocker. Anyway, I finally gave in because I was under a heap of pressure, a lot of pressure, I can tell you. So I was getting phone calls at all hours of the night. What about the UFOs? So I folded. I said, okay, let's do that then. And what happened last week? Our guest of honour didn't show up.
He was sick.
That's right, Fred, the mysterious Fred. It turned up when he didn't have to be, and then when he had to be here to talk about UFOs, he was missing in action. And then he's supposed to be here today, and he's MIA again.
Yeah.
Been abducted.
So, do we want to touch on it? Like I mean, like try and keep our feet on the ground if you can, but
I don't know.
Well, I should be like we're sort of less than 15 minutes off the hour. I don't know how many Anna documents there are to go through either, and you'll have to do the Anna documents because Alan's not here, so we'll have to listen to find out what Anna's been writing. So,
Well, just quickly, I just want to touch on the last of the documents that we talk about in our
yeah.
recompense. So we've done everything to get the person across the line. We went right up. We did the fee schedule last week, and we've done the LTA, the living testimony in the form of an affidavit. So this week we thought we'd just bunch all of the property documents. So the process is you throw yourself across the line, then you drag your stuff, and then after that you drag your business if you want to bring your business across and reconvey. But don't stress too much about the business thing because that's all a bit fuzzy at the moment. But you get yourself across first, and then you bring everyone else and everything else. So in property documents is your common carry. If you have a gun license, you need to do a common carry document to bring across your gun. And that is the only document where your mother has to approve you handling a gun. I didn't make the rules, but that's the thing. You've got to have your mum's approval. And it says it in your POA, like it says, like, the power of attorney granted to me by my mother. So that's your gun license. If you haven't got a gun license, don't worry about it. Okay, it's just if you've got a gun license. You would also bring your marriage, because remembering that a marriage in their world, in maritime, is a merger of two corporations, and they being the primary corporation, you're just a subsidiary corporation joining up with another subsidiary corporation, and everything that corporation produces belongs to the chief corporation or the head corporation. So what you want to do is you want to reconvey your marriage and bring that across. Any product that marriage produces, i.e. kids, kin, children, offspring. Offspring is, I think, the proper definition. So you bring your offspring across and they get a property
They're
deed.
known as property, yeah.
Property deed. That's why, if you've got issues around, and this is another whole topic that I won't go too far into, but, if CPS or anyone are bothering you and turning up on your doorstep, you say they're my kin or my offspring, okay? Because if you call them children or kids, that's their titles. But if you say my offspring or my kin, they can't get around that because they are living terms. So you bring that property across. And you bring obviously your land. And that's where we have the 4 documents that outline. So you've got Sue, you'll have to help me out here because I've not done land. You've got an allonge, a
Declaration of permanent homestead and domicile. You've got your, oh goodness, I haven't looked them up
You've
either.
got your meets and bounds as well. Or is that attached?
Yeah, but that's
to
not one of the 4 documents. That's just attached to the allonge.
Yeah.
So the allonge is really and then you have a declaration of
permanent homestead.
Yeah, I've said that one. Permanent homestead.
And then you've got the witness affidavit.
And a deed of reconveyance.
Yeah.
The deed of reconveyance. Thank you, Anita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The deed of reconveyance, that's what brings the actual land or you back onto the land.
So they are the documents that you need. So you can use whichever apply or none. So for me, I divorced many, many years ago, so I didn't want to reconvey that, whatever. So I've just left it out there. Don't have any kids. I do have a gun license. I did my common carry, and the property that I own, I can't afford to get it properly surveyed and it's a bush block, so I can't really do a meets and bounds because it would mean like literally slashing the undergrowth, and I'm just not up for that right at the moment. So I haven't done the property. But if you've got any of those things, bring them across too. You would not want to reconvey yourself and your partner and leave your kids unreconveyed. You just wouldn't want to do that because they could then literally be taken away from you. Okay. So you absolutely don't want to do that. Now, when we say children, they're children up to 21, aren't they, Sue? Yep. So if your kids, even if they've left home, if they're 20 and 19, they are still your offspring and they are considered offspring or children or kin until they are 21. And at that point, they can reconvey themselves. And at that point, they can also start up a GFG account. Until then, they cannot, or if they start one up, they can't access it. So they can only do that when they're 21. All right. Once again, I didn't make the rules. That's just how it is. So yeah, that's all of those documents. Now,
I don't think they can actually open up a GFG account unless they are 21. Fiona, can you just confirm that? Quite sure that's the case. Not sure if Fiona is listening, but I don't think you can open up a bank account unless you are 21.
okay, it might be the case. I saw something. There was a lot of talk about it many moons ago, and someone said, "Well, you might be able to open one, but it won't. It'll just sit there and won't do
Yep.
anything until they're 21."
One of the differences between here and America, their age of majority is 21 and ours here is 18.
Yeah.
So, given that this is all stemming from America,
Yeah.
the whole world of TASA, all the instructions we've got are for 21. So it does put our poor offspring in that land of limbo for those 3 years where the system wants to treat them like adults. But in the world of lawful, they're not adults till 21. So
yeah. Well, it's better than some systems that treat 8-year-olds like adults and decide to sell them off to be married. So, 18's better than 8, I guess. Alrighty, Anadox. Now we'll very quickly move on to the Anadox. Just so you know, she's starting to talk about UFOs, mate.
I know. That's why I'm talking about it now, because she is.
Can I drop you guys a link? I got a very interesting email on this topic today from Charlene and Ty Bollinger that's also looking into this, and they actually tell you how they're going to try and fool people. So I'm happy to, I've got an email. I'll
With
see if
Project Bluebeam. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, drop the link in the chat and we can talk
Yeah.
about that after we do the Anna stuff. So we'll
Okay, sure. I'll drop it in.
I'll whiz through the Anna stuff as far, well, I'll try.
Ray's
So anyway-
already got a link in there. He's been carting it around for 3 weeks.
Okay, so the last one, if you remember, we talked about the Indigenous claim of the Blue Bloods, which is where a lot of the Tartarians seem to have come from, which is the steppes up around, I suppose, where Mongolia and that is now. But the Visigoths and the Tartarians had a great empire, and it was very mobile empire. They didn't sort of sit in one place. They kind of moved around. And then I think what happened is they kind of got shoved west because they got shut out. And that was part of the Great Wall, was to keep the Great Wall of China was to keep the Tartarians out of China. And that's right. That's the other thing is, yeah, so it is around Mongolia and that top part of China that no one really knows anything about. So that was the last one that we talked about. And she mentioned that the bad guys have spent literally 2,000 years covering up this history. So then we move into the next one that she puts out, which is the fact it's called Indigenous, and these are all public notices, by the way. So this is coming out from the fiduciary. It's not coming out from Granna. This is she's going on record with this to GovCo. Okay, so this is where we're at. So what she's saying is the Indigenous Angelic Nation, and she said the Tartaria docs have been saved. It's not all been deleted, and there's a half-hour video showing why the documents were hidden up until now, and it was to allow us, the Earth Angels, time to round up the fallen. So if you're following along at home, the fallen is the fallen angels that decided to go bad. The war in the heavens is over, which she's not the only person saying that. There's other people. Michael Saller's got people on there saying they've cleaned up the deep state in heaven, and there was a deep state in heaven, as above, so below. So this is verified as well by other people. The war in the heavens is over. We can now claim, sorry, not we can, we now claim ancestral rights and all documentation about Tartaria to be brought forward and placed in the public record in the Philadelphia Library. Why Philadelphia, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's where she wants it put. There is a video that goes with that, and it would probably be quite good to watch. Then she does another public notice, Indigenous claim of the blue bloods, and she puts a photo of her hand and with the veins, and it's basically showing the same as this one's better. You can see maybe there's an M on my hand, and I've got blue blood here, also my copper bracelet. But yeah, blue blood in the veins. Okay, many of us have that. Then she does another international public notice, end of an era of evil. Apparently, the day of reckoning is 3 years away. It was news to me, but anyway, that's what she says. The day of reckoning is 3 years away, and we've got to make a choice. Do we choose the law of love or the law of judgment? And you'll remember she talked about this last week too. The fallen have been removed, so we can now get on with the restoration of the planet, and getting her back up to speed and looking after her and all the rest of it. And we need to basically choose whether we're going to go down love or fear. Again, public notice. Another public notice, the problem of knowledge. And what she's saying is brain knowledge has largely overridden our knowing, our intuition, our gut, okay? And it's time to start rectifying that. Basically, 999 is the new frequency of the planet, and she's not the only one saying that either. If you go onto YouTube and look up 999 frequency, there is so much there. It's basically the God connection, apparently. What Anna says is take time to listen to it each day to bring yourself more into alignment with the world we are building and or restoring. Humming each day will stimulate your vagus nerve. And again, this has been scientifically proven. I read about this a couple of months ago. If you hum, it resonates in here. It stimulates your vagus nerve, and it also makes your body produce something which is like a I need to go and do my research, but it's something that your body doesn't get enough of, and people keep trying to artificially like take tablets for it. But if you actually hum, it just stimulates that and your body will produce it naturally, and it keeps you really healthy. Also, Assembly Connect put out a thing yesterday talking about the Nexus body, which is this part down sort of near your solar plexus, which is your gut. And it's a body that has been hidden, or has been rather shoved into, let's not talk about this and hope that everyone forgets it. In the medical field, knew about this, but then and the military certainly know about it, but they've hidden it really well, because that is when people say in my gut, it doesn't feel right, they're actually talking about there's an actual organ in your gut called the Nexus body, and that is the organ that connects you to the electromagnetic frequencies around us. So we can actually pick up on vibes. When we talk about vibes, and I'm not talking about Anthony Albanese here because his vibes are completely screwed because he's a robot anyway. But when we talk about the vibes, that's what, so when we go into a room and we know just by looking at her back while she's at the sink that our mum's in a really cranky mood and we should not put a foot out of line because she's going to whack us, or at least talk very sternly to us. You don't whack us, mum. We know that's our Nexus body going, danger, Will Robinson, danger. Okay, so it's real. Then the next one is another international public notice, and she's talking about resonance, and this is about energies which are changing on the earth. We all know this. She's being healed and terraformed. Apparently, all these weird things that are going on the land are actually terraforming, presumably by some of the aliens that are here with us that we can't see. Ley lines and nodes are being restored. We are starting now to see a split in humanity as people naturally divide themselves into frequencies, one of love and one of fear. So there's people going, oh, the sun looks beautiful today and it's really lovely. And someone else is going, oh my God, Iran's a terrible place and Trump's a devil in disguise. And that's what it is. These worlds will exist in tandem for a while. until we eventually do whatever we're going to do. Twin flame energy starts in earnest this week, so there might be a lot of people finding their twin flame, but remember, is it real or is it fake? As does angelic awakening, and the overall quality of light is changing. So it's more golden, like real golden, not fake golden. Prepare over the next 3 years for fairly dramatic changes overall. And I think what she's talking about here is that false matrix, if any of you are following along, the false matrix is actually cracking and it's crumbling. So there's going to be all this weirdness going on where we look at things and we go, hang on, that wasn't like that 3 days ago. And it's because that's been taken out. All right. Then she goes back to Grana, and essentially it's summarized, her whole thing is summarized with life depends on truth, truth depends on courage. Don't hide your truth in order to fit in. You need to have courage sometimes to tell your truth. Okay. And she specifically refers to the fact that you might love someone who doesn't look perfect or maybe isn't perfect, but if you love them anyway, that's okay. Just be honest about their the reasons that they're not great. This person is they spend far too wildly and they drink too much and they do this, and I don't like how they don't do this, but I love them anyway. Okay. And it's courage sometimes to love someone in spite of a whole lot of things telling you not to. Okay. And it's not just about love, it's about anything. Truth is about finding the courage to speak your truth. Okay. And I know that there's quite a few people that actually feel that. And then we go back to international public notice, and this one is really just another summation of the fraud and trickery that happened in 1871 when they substituted the fake America Incorporated or USA Incorporated for America, the country. So that's what she's just putting that out. So it's the myth and fact of 1871. So that leaves us with the Anadox for another week.
It was quick and easy, wasn't it? Hey, that day of reckoning, you don't know what day it is there. You want to put a note in my diary just to be
16th
good.
of May, apparently.
Yeah. What year?
16th of May, 2029, eh?
I just want to put a note in my diary, just a reminder every few months to, like, start being good. I don't want to end up in the wrong place.
So, yeah, so it's really weird. I was listening, I don't know how many other people out there. I know that certainly Mookie and Judgy put out a bit of stuff with Pam Gregory, and I was listening to Pam Gregory talk to Lee Harris this morning, and Lee Harris is another guy who lives in England, really seemingly to be a very nice guy, just a really nice person. And he channels a bunch called the Z's, and people were asking him about aliens and stuff like that. He said, there's ETs now here. We talk to them all the time. And he said quite often UFOs will disguise themselves as clouds. He said, so sometimes you'll see a cloud and it'll be really odd. And you'll be like, that's odd. And it's probably a UFO. But he said it's like Men in Black. Just they're not all scary and, want to eat us. They're just going about their business. So maybe Men in Black was just disclosure quite a few years ago.
Possibly. I wouldn't be surprised. And it's no wonder Anna's talking about UFOs, eh? Because she heard that we were going to talk about it and she didn't want to be late to the party, I reckon. Anita, you had your hand up before and then you took it down and now you've got it up again. And I know you put a couple of things in the chat. Tell us what's going on.
A good few years ago, at our local shopping center, was a guy asking for food and things, and I went in and I bought him some food and whatever, and we were then talking, just talking, and he said to us, tonight at 6 o'clock when the sun sets, go to the ocean and there will be 3 dragons over the ocean. And I said, yeah, I'll go. And And then I forgot. And then all of a sudden, this whole thing came in. You have to go right now. Anyway, I got in my car. I left everything and I got in my car and I went down to the ocean. I'm only like 1.5 kilometers away from the ocean.
I
And
want
I
to tell you about something that, oh, sorry.
That's okay. And I stood there and I thought, oh, I don't see anything right now. And I took my husband with me because I said this guy was adamant it's going to happen today. Anyway, and I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. And we were sort of chatting. And when we looked back, I kid you not, there were 3 dragons in the clouds, like right on the horizon, next to each other. And what it was little triangles in clouds like that in the shape of a dragon. And every now and again, in our skies, there would just be like 3 triangles like that next to each other, like 1, 2, and 3, like pointing up, and that's it. Clouds. Very odd, very funny, and it's not a chemtrail or anything. It's not like a line. It looks like that. And it will be pointing up, and we will look at this and go, oh, wonder what that is all about. So we need to look up more, I think. And one of my customers live on the ocean, and she said to me she's seen UFOs, not just once, but twice. And then they just disappear in the ocean. They either come up from it or they go down into it. And I'm going, okay, that's interesting. So is it the blue
No.
beam at work or is it genuine? I don't know.
George Kavasilis, I've talked about George before. He says that yes, there are bases underneath the ocean. So, yep, that would be true. And Kerry Kay, she's South African. She's very good on YouTube, but she's just been recently over the last few months talking about the return of the dragons. And so she said there's the first one that came was red, I think, and then there was a green and gold one. But she said, yeah, the dragons have returned, and they are helping to reform and put the earth back together the way she should be. And there was something else I wanted to say there. Oh, years ago, I was living back in Gisborne, and I was coming home one night I'd been to a thing in Kyneton, for anyone that knows that way, and I was coming back and I stopped and I actually pulled the car over because there were these 2 clouds in formation that both looked like, when you've got those geese and they're flying like that really, and they're stretched out with the wings and the beak, like the head right out. And looking back now, I'm like, they weren't just like they were perfectly shaped like these like flying geese, basically. And I went, now knowing what I know now, I go, it was 2 ships. Like clearly it was 2 ships, one after the other. But yeah, they're definitely out there. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I yield.
no risk. I've seen them. Years and years ago, I was driving from Broken Hill down towards Port Augusta. It's out there. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. It's a beautiful, really dark night. Yeah, the stars are really, really bright, and I love that stuff. It's about, really good part of being a truck driver is you get to be out there on your own and you can take it all in and enjoy it. And I got focused on a light that was directly in front of me, and I thought, oh, that's not a star. It's not moving. And I drove along for 5 minutes, I reckon, because the road wasn't varying much, and I just kept watching this thing. And the next thing, it just took off and went sideways, took off to my right. I was going south. It took off to my right. And you could see the outline of mountains and stuff like that. It actually went behind a mountain that I could see there, and out the other side it was gone. So it wasn't anything man-made, that's for sure. I've never seen anything behave like that before.
Well, that's where there was a guy and he wrote some books, and this is, again, quite a long time ago, but he talks about the tall white people that are aliens that live out that way because, as you know, we've talked about this before on this show. That's
Were
Area
they the
52.
tall white people?
Yeah, they're called the tall
That's
whites.
everybody to you, Sarah. You're 5 foot.
5'4", excuse me. Rude.
The tall white people. Okay.
But there was, because like that whole area up from Port Augusta is pretty much off limits to everyone because it's known in the spook world as Area 52. So God knows what happens out there because I sure don't. But um, apparently there was this guy that came out and he worked on naval bases and he was part of the whole secret squirrel thing. And he came out and he said, yeah, there's aliens living out there in the desert, like the full on towns. They've got kids, the whole thing. He said they're not from Earth, but they're here. And that's roughly around that sort of area where they would be. And yeah, so there's that.
They never spotted them in Coles doing their shopping or anything like that.
I didn't, but then I don't hang out in Port Augusta Coles all that much, so
it is fascinating. Like I've thought for a long time, there's just so many stories around that it can't be a non-truth. Like so yeah, we just wait and see what happens. But one of those videos you put the link for, Anita, that's about how they're going to try and fool us. Is that right?
oh, the blue beam.
Yeah, with the blue beam and the holograms and things like that. And they're projecting like this, the second coming of Jesus and things like that. And then it will sound real that this blue beam will say, follow me. So they're just warning people, just be aware. And they also say connect to your inner self, your solar plexus and things like that. It really made a lot of sense, and Anna's talking about the same thing. I was like engrossed in this article. What I will do is I will actually send the email, just in case this Substack thing hasn't got everything on. I'll send the email to everyone on here. And then and then I know you've got the whole thing. There's a few videos on there. I'm just not sure what this link is doing right now.
That'd be good.
But I will send it to all of you. Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that's what I opened up was one of the links was where Dolores Cannon talks about the two worlds. And there's a lot of people, lots and lots and lots of people around the world for a long time have been talking about this two world split, this world splitting thing.
Yep.
So I think that probably is sort of coming up. So when she talks about the day of reckoning, I'm pretty sure that what will happen is 3 years from now, Wayne, there'll be a big door pop up in front of you or two doors. And there'll be someone standing in front of it going, which door? Come on. Have you made up your mind yet?
I fucking hate puzzles like that.
Which one says TASA? That's me.
I think they are. So I think you get to choose, mate. I don't think it's a quiz. I think
Can
you
I
get
knock
to
on the door and say hello?
Have a look inside first.
So yeah, so I think there's that. But yeah, certainly I do think that moving forward, we're going to have to use our discernment a lot when things come along.
Yeah.
So even like, and Anna's been saying the same thing with this twin flame thing and with all this stuff, when something comes along, kind of go, really, is this really sort of where it's at? So I think it's coming back to trusting yourself and really, I've talked about it before, know your own thoughts, know the tenor of your thoughts, know how your thoughts sound in your head, know how they flow, because then you'll know if it's not your thoughts, you'll know if it feels weird. So yeah.
When I was reading that email for around about 45 minutes or so, if I didn't know what I know, and this kind of thing happens when you read the article, I don't know which way I would have gone. I don't even know which way I will go if this kind of thing happens, because it can look really real and it can sound really real, and you mean well, and you're so trusting. And I'm such a green stick that I may even even with everything that I know, I'm just petrified I might make the wrong decision as well. But like you said, maybe we should be more connected to our gut and listen to that feeling and go, no, or yep, or no.
That's where your trust comes in.
Yeah.
That's where your trust in yourself comes in. Fiona, you're nodding your head. You've got lots to say.
No, well, one thing was Pam Gregory was talking about that split on a video of hers I watched recently. She's insane. I love astrology, and that's what she talks about. And it's all in that as well. But yeah, you can't be scared, Anita, because that puts you on the side of fear. You just have to know what a badass you are, and you're going to get it right.
That's right. And you won't work it out with your head either. You work it out with your
No,
feeling. You won't.
don't think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really,
don't think.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be my normal self. I won't think. I'll just
Wayne's got it in the bag.
Well, I just want to bring attention to the link that Ray put in the chat about that UFO story from 1966 at Westall School in Clayton.
Wait.
My neighbours, the children that lived in that house, were at that school when that happened. And I can still remember them coming home. I was like 5 years old. I can still remember them coming home all excited about this. And it was all, like everyone in the neighbourhood was talking about it because I lived quite close to there. So, and I feel like I've been surrounded by people who have had all these supernatural or UFO encounters or strange lights or sounds, and I think it would be highly egotistical to think that we were the only life force in the universe with any intelligence at all. So I think that would be a very small world view. And I feel really jealous that everybody else get to see these things, and I'm always like on the outskirts. Everybody else sees it and they tell me.
I don't think you need to feel that. I don't see a lot of stuff. It's very rare that I see things, and it's only afterwards I go, oh, if only I'd known. It's that kind of thing. But that is one of the things in one of those documents that Anna talked about today, Sue, was we've had alien tech here for a long time. And the problem is that, and this is where she talks about knowledge versus discernment or knowledge versus intuition. It's a lot of damage is being done right now to the planet through use of alien tech because people don't know how to use it properly. It's like, I know the big thing at the moment, and we will need to look at this more, and probably sooner than we thought, but data centers. So if anyone out there is listening to this and you hear data centers and you go, what are they? Have a look, because they are frightening and they are being thrown upon and thrust upon us at a rate that is horrific, and they are absolutely diabolical. But the sort of tech that requires the data centers is probably tech that we don't and shouldn't have. We are a species that are killing off bees. Now, bees are required for life on this planet. Like they literally are required for life on this planet, as are frogs. And we have got psychopaths in charge who are deliberately killing off bees for no reason at all. Now, if we can't figure out, hey, this causes this, which means we need this to survive, so let's not kill that. If we can't figure that out, should we be in charge of other things? Like, seriously?
They spend years and years and years teaching us not to think.
Yeah. And
You have to you remember this, and then when I ask you this question, you are a good little chant monkey and you write it down, otherwise you're wrong.
Chant monkey.
That's what Don Tolman calls it, chant monkey.
Yeah, Sarah, we're going to have to.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to have to develop some sign language. When I rub my nose like that, it's time to
shut up.
Right, like that. Right. So we're over time a bit because if you make those things too long, nobody wants to listen to them.
Yeah.
So Fiona, in particular, thank you very much for coming along here today and sharing your vast knowledge. And for all you other clever people, I can't believe we had so much cleverness in one room. So thanks once again for all your input, and we'll do it all again in a week's time. And for anybody who's on for the chat after the chat, I'll see you there.
Okay. Bye, everyone.